He wasn't one of my first guitar heroes, but a friend from England introduced me to Queen in my late high school years, and I became an instant Brian May fan. Good thing too, because he showed me some secrets I didn't learn from anyone else. My first guitar hero is Pete Townshend, followed quickly by Jimmy Page. I still love their playing today, and I learned a lot from them. But when a friend played me some Queen, and I'm not just talking about the hits, I'm talking about stuff like Brighton Rock from Sheer Heart Attack, I instantly became a fan. But especially of Brian May. Something about him just sounded different, and it wasn't just that guitar he was using. I knew I could learn some cool tricks from him. Anyway, a little while later I was able to borrow his Starlix video, the one that he did in 1983. It was really eye-opening, not just because of the licks that were in there, but also because of the little tidbits of wisdom that he dispersed along the way. Anyway, here are a few of the things that I think are important that I still use today, including the number one thing that I think that makes him distinct, so make sure you watch to the end so you don't miss it. The first things I took away were from their first album, off of Keep Yourself Alive. So uniquely Brian May. Well, what did I take away from it? The first thing was that galloping rhythm, and believe it or not, the key is the same key to playing funk rhythm. It's all about the 16th notes. Now, most rock is in 8th notes. So in a 4 count, we've got 8 divisions. So it sounds like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Pretty common, right? But here we've got 4 divisions for each beat. So that's 16. Sounds like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. And when we speed it up, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you just skip a beat every once in a while, you get that dum da da dum da da dum da da dum, the gallop. Like that. But also, it's one of the first times I encountered that rock double stop. Out of the A minor pentatonic, it's these. And you can bend them as well to get that nasty sound. But an even more important thing I took away was from the section on Brighton Rock. Now, this is going to sound odd and maybe even a little bit controversial, but he didn't really know not exactly what he played. And what's more, he didn't even seem to care that much. Check it out. So here's a lick from Brighton Rock. And now slowly. But Brian clearly didn't know whether that was the exact lick he played on the record. For him, it was close enough, and timing was almost everything. For me, that was the first time I ever really understood why guitar teachers say, don't just memorize this lick. Don't just learn it verbatim, come up with your own variation. It's because when you do that, you don't have to memorize so many things, and you can play much more confidently. In a sense, all you really need to know is that you're starting from this high E, and you're coming down to this E, 2 octaves below, and you're going to play something bluesy in between. So for Brian, it was this. But it could be this. Not as cool as Brian's, but perfectly serviceable. So that was mind-blowing to me at the time, that he only approximately knew what he did. But what was even more mind-blowing to me was how often throughout the video he said he rarely used scales and that he mostly played through chords. Chords? But he clearly could play scales, so what was he talking about? Well, he didn't just say play chords, he said play through chords. So let's use his masterful solo to Bohemian Rhapsody to see what he was talking about. If we look at the chords to the solo section, they look pretty complex. but we can simplify them for soloing. Let's take that first line. We can simplify it to this. So we can do that because in that complex line, this one right here, it's really filled in mostly by the bass player, John Deacon, playing this. Harmonically, it's really just an F minor, then an A flat, then a B flat. These chords show the solo section is in E flat major. So Brian could have just used the E flat major scale, and he did use that scale, but he used it to play through the chords. So the first line is over the chords E flat, B flat, and C minor. It goes like this. Now, that's basically only 3 notes. It's this, which is the third of E flat, it's a chord tone. It's this, which is B flat, the root of B flat. And this, which is C, the root of C minor. So it's just jazzed up a bit. And that's why we often say it's not the notes you play, it's how you play them, right? It's all in the phrasing. So that was fairly easy to understand. Emphasize chord tones. But what does play through chords mean? So here's my interpretation. Whenever we play a chord for a while, like this C minor is being played for a while before we get to this F minor, we can use that opportunity to play notes in the scale, in this case a E flat major scale, over that C minor chord until we get to that F minor, and then we're going to sit on a chord tone. Like what Brian May plays is this. He plays that over the C minor, and then over the F he does this, which is just a bent note to an F. What could be simpler? Play an F over the F minor chord. And then he just continues in the same vein. For instance, on the next sequence, F minor to A flat to B flat. On F minor, we're playing through it to get to A flat, and we're using the E flat major scale. That C is a chord tone in A flat. And then because A flat isn't played very long, we just leave it there. We don't play through A flat. But then when we get to B flat, we play this. Or something very similar. Now, believe it or not, that is the simplest line there is, because it just, over a B flat chord, we start with B flat and we end in B flat. And just playing the E flat major scale between those notes. Again, that simple octave trick. So much to learn from just a few songs and a few Brian May tidbits. Oh, the #1 secret, right. He plays like a singer. But not just any singer, he matched Freddie Mercury. Here's an example. Singers know the notes that they need to land on, but they often have different numbers of syllables to sing, so they have to speed up or slow down their lines. Brian May did that in this line. But just understanding that you need to play chord tones isn't enough. You need to be able to visualize them all over the fretboard, and it's not easy. But I've made it easier for you because I've got a free triad roadmap that you can download from a link in the description. It's totally free and it's in all keys, so go ahead and download it, and I'll see you on down the road.